I'm Yvonne Bockelman, President and General Manager for our Strategic and Value-Based Solutions for Zimmer Biomet. To give a little context today before we start with our patient interview, Mark's going to be talking about his hip surgery experience, which he most recently had. And this time he had a hip replacement with a product called MyMobility by Zimmer Biomet. MyMobility is used in conjunction with the Apple Watch to help create a customized and personalized experience for the patient both pre-op and post-op. We have a relationship with Apple in the musculoskeletal space that we're really proud of. Mark was a participant in a study. We've been working with Apple to study MyMobility and to study the outcomes and the benefits of MyMobility. So Mark, I'm really glad you're here with us today. I appreciate you taking time, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to hear directly from a patient about your experience. Let's talk about your last hip replacement and how you saw your pain progress, the slowdown. What led you to have to get your hip replaced?
Well, 7 years ago, I had my left hip replaced, and I realized now with the right one that I needed to address it as rapidly as I could because I'm very active, and particularly in officiating. I officiate high school and college soccer. I also officiate girls lacrosse.
Oh, wow.
And the benchmark for me was how much pain could I endure. And I finally realized this past spring that I couldn't wait any longer. So that's what led me to have the right hip replacement May 30th.
Great. And so this hip was different because you had it with MyMobility as a part of your education and post-op recovery. So tell me about the differences with that and how you thought it worked for you.
Well, I have a direct frame of reference because 7 years ago I had traditional physical therapy. And this time Dr. Klein explained this MyMobility, and he asked me if I'd be willing to participate in it because he knew that I was very motivated to get back to officiating as soon as possible. So I was very excited to participate, and it was incredible because I think within 3 days post-op, it was downloading exercises to me. I had one set of exercises in the morning, and then I had another set of exercises in the afternoon. And the thing I liked most about it was it held me very accountable because when I wasn't doing my exercises, it would remind me that I had some exercises to do. So it was basically like having a therapist with me 24/7. So because of that, and because of holding me more accountable, I was more highly motivated, and the progression was fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough about it.
Great. So when we were talking earlier, you were commenting about the fact that the pain you were having and the challenges you were having doing your officiating leading up to the hip, and then how quickly you were able to come back and how noticeable that was. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Most definitely. The first hip I had it replaced in the middle of June, and it wasn't until after 120 days that I even attempted to run for the first time. And even when I attempted with the first hip after 120 days, I experienced, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I was still in about a 5 or 6 pain range. Well, when this one was done in May, and I participated in MyMobility, I was going to wait for 90 days because everybody encouraged me to wait for 90 days, but I felt so good with swimming and walking every day and going up and down stairs that I tested it after day 83, and once I could move and perform at a level that was even higher than the level I performed with the first hip, 120 days, I decided that I would start my season then, and I did three matches before even 90 days. And I just finished my 27th match of officiating yesterday, and I'm not even at 120 days yet.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And no pain, and you completed your exercises, all of that went well?
Well, I did 2 matches yesterday. I drove 250 miles to come here, and I woke up this morning and jumped out of bed with no pain whatsoever.
That's great. That's great. And we were talking about the fact one of the components of MyMobility is not only the education up front leading into your procedure, but the post-op physical therapy, replacing what has been traditional physical therapy where you would go multiple times a week to an office or to a facility. How did you find that? You said you kept motivated, you stuck to the exercises, you felt like you were compliant. Talk to us about that.
Well, the difference for me is if you go to physical therapists in the past, I was going maybe twice a week, if I was lucky, 3 times a week for maybe 6, 7 weeks post-op. This time I had a physical therapist with me 24/7. 90 straight days, and what more can you ask for when you have a physical therapist with you every single day, and constantly reminding you need to do your exercises. And on top of it, I have a wife that's a nurse practitioner,
Oh, great.
so that certainly helps too, because she said that's why you have that My Mobility app. Keep going, keep going. So the access is tremendous, and if you have an issue with My Mobility, you have a point of reference with the doctor, and she was fantastic too. She communicated with My Mobility. If I had any issues or glitches, they took care of it immediately within several hours most of the time.
Great. That was one of the other pieces I wanted to ask you about. We've created an environment where it should feel very comfortable for the patient to communicate with their physician or the care team about any question they might have. You found you accessed that and were able to use that feature and communicate with the office?
Well, that's kind of what led me to come here today, because when I was meeting with my surgeon for the second time post-op, I brought the person in who represented My Mobility in his office that was working with me, and I said, she did such an amazing job, and she really represented My Mobility so well. And he said to me, would you be interested in speaking, telling your story and sharing your story? I said, absolutely. I mean, I can't say enough about it.
That's great. We had, I think when we launched My Mobility, and we have it both in the study and commercially available, there was some question about whether or not you really needed to be tech savvy and be on top of it to utilize the watch or iPad or whatever a patient may be using. Did you find that? Do you consider yourself tech savvy, and was there any issue with that, or was it easy?
Nowhere near as tech savvy as my children are, of course. I'm in between them and my father, so I'm middle of the road. But no, I'm not tech savvy, but I had no issues using it whatsoever. None.
Great, great. So it sounds like it aligned with your expectations in terms of what you were able to do and how quickly you were able to get back on the field, so to speak. Are you still using My Mobility today, and in what way might you be using it?
Well, I found that I can tap into the educational component still, so to refresh my mind, because sometimes my mind doesn't stay on top of it. It refreshes my mind, and it tells me what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. Remember, it talks about there are some limitations or things you shouldn't do. And it's kind of a frame of reference. It's almost like my personal Google when it comes to my replacement. So yeah, it's a great tool for me to be able to tap into the education.
Cool. And as part of the study, you'll be using it or have that availability, I think, for a year post-op, correct?
Yes.
Yep, great.
Yes.
Good. So convenient, easy to access, getting what you need done, and helping you back on the field. All good outcomes for you.
Absolutely.
Anything you would add, anything I didn't ask you about that you would say about My Mobility or that you want to share with this audience today?
Well, I think even today, you see that I have my watch on and that I was provided, and I constantly utilize this, and I track my activity, and I know it's not My Mobility, but there's other apps that you can use to track your physical activity throughout the day, and right now I'm on a 17-day record-setting pace, so it's motivated me in more than one way, My Mobility, and now it's actually motivated me to stay active and to stay fit as much as I can possibly do so. And it also helped me, I know it doesn't look it, but it also helped me lose 15, 20 pounds in the process.
Hey, I'll take that up as well. That's a great thing. The fact you said you jumped out of your bed this morning, hit the hotel, and walked over here. That's
Yeah,
very
well, I did. I
impressive.
walked over here, so I said, why should I take an Uber when I can walk now without any pain whatsoever? So.
That's great. Mark, I really appreciate you sharing your story today and the interest that you've had in My Mobility. Thank you very much.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.